Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Carrie and today I'm doing my September book haul. There we go. I do apologize about not posting on Sunday. I was having some technical difficulties and then just didn't have the patience for it. And then yesterday I did mean to post. Turns out I had a migraine instead, and so filming and migraine was not something that was going to happen. That said, I am now fully functional again, as you can see, and am filming and posting my September book haul. This coming week though, I will be back to the Sunday-Wednesday schedule, providing no other, migraines or nuclear bombs decide to drop themselves into my skull. Let's get into the books. The first one, and arguably the most important, is Dark Dawn by J. Kristoff. This is the third in the Nevernight Chronicles. I reread all of them in September, so check out my September wrap-up for that. This follows Mia, who has decided she is going to avenge the deaths of her families on these three incredibly powerful men by killing said very powerful men. Love it. There is so much smut, so much language, so much violence, so much character development. It is just... it's amazing. There will be a review coming of this series sometime this month, hopefully, so watch out for that, where I will hopefully, again, be more articulate about what I love in this series. The book that could maybe challenge Dark Dawn's importance for the month of September's haul is this one, which is very old, but it is Literary England. And the reason this one rivals Dark Dawn is because it is a gift from a friend. I realize that me having friends is somewhat of a shock, I'm sure. Anyway, I have a couple of friends who are now in Quebec, Canada, and when they were in Arizona going through her grandmother's things, they came across this book, again, Literary England, and they thought of me, and so they took the time to send it to me all the way up here in Minnesota because they knew that I would love it and appreciate it, and they wanted it to go to a good home, and they know that that's me. Now, to explain what this book is. This book, as the title may suggest, it goes through literary England. It was published in the 1940s, late 1940s, and it has all of these pictures and little blurbs from English literature that go along with the picture. For example, that one is Tintagel Castle, which was the birthplace of King Arthur, allegedly, obviously. And then the poem is Alfred Tennyson's The Coming of Arthur. It continues, there's a section from Le Morte d'Arthur next to a picture of Dosemary Pool, which is where legend says Excalibur was thrown. And then there's the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle next to a stone monument where Alfred hid from the Danes. Which Alfred I don't know, because I think there were several. They have a snippet from the Canterbury Tales, and who doesn't love the Canterbury Tales? We had to write our own Canterbury Tale based on a woman who was telling the story at some point. Oh, my English teacher would be so sad that I forgot. Crap. I do remember writing my own Canterbury Tale though. Do I think it was any good? Absolutely not. But it got me a good grade because I was 16 at the time, so that's all that mattered. Got me a good grade, it was fun to write. Anyway, this basically goes through all of it. If I remember correctly, it is... yeah, this book is the development of a picture essay on literary England that appeared in Life magazine in June 14th, 1943. So I just think that's really cool, and I'm really happy that they thought of me. And then we get into the books that I bought myself. First one being The Sandalwood Tree by L. Newmark. This is a book that is set in India in 1947, right about the time of the partition. It's an American anthropologist, and she discovers these love letters between these two women in the bungalow that she now lives in from 1857, and it just sounded fascinating. Then we have A Company of Swans by Eva Ibbotson, and this is a YA historical fiction set in 1912 where Harriet Morton wants to be a ballerina because that's her only escape from her very stuffy Edwardian proper life. And when she gets the chance, she jumps at it and becomes the 18th swan in this touring ballet group that is going to South America. She runs away from her overbearing father and her soon-to-be husband, and they come looking for her, because obviously. Then I got The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. This is a fantasy that follows an exceptional con man. It is apparently sort of duo perspective in that it follows him when he is younger, and it follows him now. I've heard mixed things about this, but it was $2 and I kind of figured I'd give it a shot. We also have The Trials of Apollo, the Tyrant's Tomb by Rick Riordan. This is obviously the 4th book in the Apollo series, which to be honest is not my favorite, but I do still enjoy it and I am looking forward to seeing how this plays out. My favorite part of this series so far has been watching the Roman emperors come to life because I find them fascinating. Horrible people, but fascinating nonetheless. And I'm very much so looking forward to seeing how this saga ends. Apollo obviously was a god. He pissed off Zeus, and Zeus struck him down to be mortal for a while. Maybe get rid of his ego, except it hasn't worked yet and we're on book 4. Then I bought Stepsister by Jennifer Donnelly. This is a retelling of Cinderella from the point of view of one of the ugly stepsisters, the one who cut off her toes to fit her foot into the slipper. As it turns out, this is a retelling of the Grimm's fairy tale versions, not the Disney versions. Then we have The Abandoned Ocean by Andrew Gibson and Arthur Donovan. This is a nonfiction about United States maritime history. I don't really know much about it, but I am fascinated by the sea and water, and my grandpa was in the Navy, so I would ultimately like to learn a lot more than what I know, and I figured this was a good start. Then I have The Perfume Collector by Kathleen Tessereau. This is a historical fiction novel that takes place in the 1950s in Paris, I believe. In London, and honestly, I just kind of skimmed the synopsis when I bought this book and saw the name Ava Dorsey and realized that she was a massively famous perfumist in the 1950s, and that hooked me because I know nothing about it. I know the name and I thought it sounded fun. Then we have Warrior Moon by Kairos Note Rivera, which is the 3rd and final book in the Tiger's Daughter trilogy. I don't know actually what the trilogy is called, but we're going with that. This is a fantasy with a female-female romance based on, or at least inspired by, Mongolia. So these women are total badasses. They're amazing, hard, strong, intelligent, everything you could want in a woman. And I'm very excited. Mind you, I have not read the 1st or the 2nd, though I do own them on the bookshelf behind my camera. So at some point I'll get to that as well, and then I can just binge read the entire series. To be fair, that might take me a while because this is still a 600-page book. And then I got an ARC that I didn't know was an ARC, but that is Isle of Blood and Stone by Makia Lucier. This I bought because it sounded good. It was on Thrift Books, and like I said, I didn't say it was an ARC. It didn't look like an ARC because this was not the cover that was on there. But at any rate, it's a YA fantasy, and there is a map maker, and they're exploring uncharted waters. Really, that's all I needed to know. So I'm hoping that I like this, and I'm hoping it's closer to what the final version actually was. I don't know how ARCs work. I also got The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. This is a historical fiction, which is more of a what-if fiction, which are always interesting. The reason it is what-if is because in the early 1800s, through the Civil War, which ended in 1865 in this country, slaves wanted to escape. I cannot blame them. They were not treated particularly well at any capacity. And to do so, they needed help. So they developed a network that we call the Underground Railroad, where people would hide them and feed them and whatever they needed to help them get from the Deep South, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, whatever, or Virginia for that matter. It didn't really matter where, but it went all the way from the Deep South all the way up to Canada to get them to freedom and theoretically safety. It didn't always work, but when it did, it was great. And this takes that to a whole new level and says, you know what? There was an actual railroad underground. Because who doesn't want an actual railroad underground? I'm intrigued. And it's a period of history that I know very little about, except that we fought an extremely bloody war over it, and the right side won. Then we have The Warrior Queens by Antonia Fraser. This is another nonfiction, can you tell my mood, about, well, as you may have guessed it, warrior queens. More specifically, it's just really strong women who have shaped the world and their countries during their time. Be that Elizabeth or Mary Queen of Scots, whatever my personal feelings are towards that woman, or any of those. So I am very excited to read this because it has several women that I've never heard of and several women that I know very little about. Always good to learn more. Finished off another trilogy, and that is A War in Crimson Embers by Alex Marshall. I don't know what this trilogy is called either, but it starts with A Crown for Cold Silver. Crown for Cold Silver was originally my sister's book. I think it still is my sister's book. I bought my own copy. Anyway, it is a military fantasy. Heavy on the military. I enjoyed the first book. I think I gave it a 3.5 or a 4 out of stars. It was a pretty good book, actually. I enjoyed it. There's a lot of snark, a lot of really dry humor. So I am excited to get to the third one, but I do have to get to the second one first. That pile is gonna fall. I also got Crucible by Mercedes Lackey. I got this one based on a recommendation from a woman at the Renaissance Festival the last weekend I was there. She and her partner sang a song written by Mercedes Lackey for one of her many series, which talks about the queen and how she was friends with her heralds and hated sending them off to war because essentially she sent them off to die. It's not a happy song, but it's a beautiful song. And the woman that I was talking to who was singing, not at the same time, said that her favorites by Mercedes Lackey were some of her short stories. I've never read them because I'm not huge on short stories, but I figured for a recommendation from somebody else who loves Mercedes Lackey, that was a great place to start. Then we have The Lady Rogue by Jen Bennett. This is a YA fantasy with a really cool cover because it's got a gold dragon on it. And there is a treasure hunting father. She's read every book in the library, but she doesn't have her father's permission, and oh good, she has to go rescue her father who got lost doing something he probably shouldn't have been doing. We also have Five Dark Fates by Kendar Blake. Wow, let's try that again. I also have Five Dark Fates by Kendar Blake. There we go, mixing up my K's and T's. This is the fourth and final book in a YA fantasy series that I have not been enamored with, we'll say. It follows three sisters who are all queens and they have to kill each other to become the ultimate queen. It's a whole other thing. I've read the first three, own them somewhere over there, so I had to finish the series. I keep forgetting that I have it though, so that tells you it's not particularly memorable for me. Either way, I will finish this hopefully this year, because the last one did end interestingly. I will say they have gotten better over time, but still not my favorite. So we'll see how this goes. The penultimate book is Total Control by David Baldacci. My parents came up over Labor Day weekend to go to the Renaissance Festival with me, and my dad brought this book. He read it on the plane and then didn't want to haul it back because he doesn't reread books, fair enough. But he knows that I love books and I reread them, and he thinks that I enjoyed it. He thinks that I will enjoy David Baldacci. I haven't read any of his stuff. So he gave me this book because better to give it to somebody you know will read it. This is not helpful. There is no synopsis on the back. If anybody who is in publishing watches this, please put synopsis on the back. And the last book is Bellwether by Susanna Kearsley. This says, at a time of divided loyalties and family strife, forbidden love blooms between a captured French-Canadian lieutenant and the daughter of the house where he is an unwilling and unwelcome guest. Local legend has it that their story ended tragically, but centuries later the clues they left behind slowly unveil another fate entirely. I do own one of her other books. It has something to do with fire and it's orange, and I would assume it's on this shelf somewhere. But we'll find that later, I say as I continue to look for it. Anyway, excited about this one. Beautiful cover. Sounds intriguing. I really enjoy the ones that go between the past and the present. They're just fascinating to me. So I'm excited to get to this one. Those are all of the books that I bought in September. I'm not even gonna... This is where I am. And I hope you enjoyed that video. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.